So I recently found myself people pleasing, and it was very unsettling for me because people pleasing is something I've always struggled with. It's like you do care about yourself and you do notice that you're hurting at the expense of others, but at the same time you don't want to hurt other people's feelings, and so you put other people's feelings first. But it doesn't mean you don't care about yourself. It's just that you don't like making other people feel bad. Like, it's so complex. I knew for sure I hadn't reached like the heights of just not caring, but I knew I had improved. So when I caught myself people pleasing, I was like, what the heck am I doing? Like, but now I realized that I was people pleasing despite having worked on it or trying to work on it, because I was trying to put myself out there and be more extroverted. And I know that sounds weird because it's like, okay, what does being an extrovert have to do with people pleasing? So I tried to look this up online to see if there's a correlation between people pleasing and being an extrovert. And funny enough, I wasn't able to find like that much info about it. But I found that weird because in my conversations with other, I wanted to say other introverts, but I don't know, I don't want to like generalize, but like, yeah, with people who seem to have the same problem as me, we kind of came to the conclusion that there definitely is a correlation. And I'm going to explain how, or how I think there's a correlation. And I could be wrong. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not an extrovert, so I can't fully speak for extroverts. But like, from my experience and my observation and the observations of the people around me, this is what we came to, the conclusion we came to. So this story starts from when I was a young girl and I was just trying to find my way in the world, you know, growing up, being taught lessons, being told do this, do that, basically just trying to figure out how to survive, you know, in this life. One thing I always used to be told growing up is it's important for you to build connections. Every time I used to be told, Claire, you need to build connections. You need to keep your friends, you know, like those friends you had in class 1 or class 2, or that person you met on the street and you got along with. Keep them, keep these people, because you never know when you'll need them. And okay, it makes sense to an extent, because it's like, yeah, okay, definitely connections are important in this world. I feel like connections are what help a lot of people get opportunities and enter into spaces that they never thought that they could ever enter into. For sure, knowing the right people can get you into the right places. I get that. But I always also found it kind of grimy. It never really made sense to me, because the way this person in particular used to preach this notion to me was that, yeah, okay, people definitely can be weird and they can be bad and they can have horrible traits, and maybe you don't even get along with them that well, but like, it's always good to keep people around because you never know when you'll need them, you know. They could end up being, I don't know, the next governor of your county, or the president of Kenya, or the CEO of, I don't know, Apple. I don't know, I said Apple, but like, you know, they could end up being in high places and you'd find yourself needing them. And to me, it just felt very it also felt like it would be detrimental in the long term to me as an individual. Because, okay, so I mentioned I'm an introvert, and I feel like I should have looked this up, but one of the characteristics of introverts is that we really value, I guess, connection, intimacy, you know, that deep, intimate relationship with others. I remember there's a time I went for therapy, and me and my therapist were talking about this, and she explained it to me as, and I don't even mean this in a bad way, this is literally what she said, and I feel like it made sense to me, but she explained it to me as extroverts like getting to know as many people as possible, whereas introverts value the connections that they make. So it's not about getting to know as many people as possible. It's more so getting to know the people that you get along with. I feel like she put it better than the way I'm putting it. Like, it's not about the quantity of the people that you get to know or the quantity of the friends that you make, but more so the quality of the friends that you make. I think that's how she put it, and I think that makes better sense. Yeah. So it's like an extrovert would be like, oh, I want to get to know as many people as possible, whereas an introvert is like, I want to find the right people for me, the people whose values align with my own. And I feel like that explains it really well. And that's why I often found the concept of like building connections and getting to know people and keeping people around very grimy, because it's like, why would I keep someone around if I feel like their values don't align with mine? If I feel like we don't get along and they're not really adding much into my life, but I'm just keeping them because I'm hoping that probably in the future, I'm not even hoping, leave alone hoping, I'm keeping them around because I never know when I could need them, I never know if I'll be in a position where like their help will really come in handy. And for me, I was just like, well, one, that sounds like torture because like, why? And then two, it doesn't feel authentic to me as well. Like, I'm pretending to like you, I'm pretending to be okay with you because I never know when I'll need you. Not because I genuinely like you, but because like you might help me in the future in this fictitious situation where I might be in need of your help. Now, don't get me wrong, I think it's important to be cordial, to be kind, to be polite, and to be good to people, because like, why not? Like, do unto others what you want to be done unto you. I try to live by that most of the time. I'm a flawed human. Sometimes I make mistakes. But for the most part, I try to live by that. And yeah, like, I encourage that. But I don't think you should encourage people's bad behavior or not stand up for yourself or persevere through things are hurting you in one way or another, just because you don't want to be on bad terms with anyone, because you never know when you need them. Me personally, I feel like burning bridges is okay sometimes, especially if the person is like a horrible person or someone you just don't align with. I think it's okay to burn bridges sometimes, guys. Like, I don't think we always have to keep the peace. I think part of having more friends, and not more friends, many friends, or knowing many people, is also persevering and trying to keep the peace for the sake of just being good with everyone, and yeah, just keeping good relations with people. And I feel like, and I could be wrong, the main reason why I wasn't really seeing a lot of articles talking about the correlation between people pleasing and being an extrovert is probably because extroverts don't really see it as persevering or putting up a front. And probably the things that would bother an individual like myself, who's very introverted and really values, alignment and deep connections and intimacy and all of that, would not bother someone who values quantity over quality. And that's not to say that extroverts don't value quality. Probably even quality is subjective. What could be quality, friendships or relationship wise, to me might not be quality to someone else. Probably someone else really values just having people around and being able to do fun things, and even something as small as small talk. Probably someone else really values that, and that's what they enjoy, and to them that's quality. Whereas for me, like, quality for me would be, just having a small inner circle and, having these deep, intimate connections. I keep saying connections. Conversations. Yeah. They probably don't see it as people pleasing because they're not really like, suffering per se, whereas someone like myself is really like breaking her back to entertain different people. Yeah. So because I was putting myself out there more, because I was trying to get to know as many people as possible and be involved in more things and doing more things and all of that, I found myself really having to sacrifice a lot of the things that I value and, persevere through different personalities. This is really sounding like I don't like people. I actually like people. I like interesting people. But also at the same time, I think anyone can be interesting depending on how you look at it. But I just don't think I have the bandwidth to be able to accommodate so many different personalities, and I think that's okay. Yeah. So initially, where I would have probably dismissed someone for a certain behavior or a quality that I feel like that doesn't align with me, I was finding myself persevering through it and not calling it out even when it needed to be called out, because I'm trying to get to know new people. I'm trying to put myself out there. I'm trying to be out there, Yeah. So anyways, upon now realizing this correlation and this huge dilemma that I now have to deal with, it kind of also made me think about friendships and how complex friendships can also be in a similar way. And that brings me to my next topic, which is compartmentalizing people/friends. This is another thing that I've always really struggled with, because for me, again, it's like I really just love surrounding myself with people who are, like-minded, and we share similar values, and, we just really get each other, and I fulfill you in all these ways and you fulfill me in all these other ways, and we just fulfill each other and we're good, and yeah. So for me, my friends are my friends, my friends for hanging out with are the same friends I'll have for, I don't know, going out with, are the same friends I'll have for staying in with, are the same friends I'll call when I need help, are the same friends, I'll tell my deepest, darkest secrets, are the same friends who, I don't know, I'm running out of scenarios, but basically, if you're my friend, then you're just my friend, you just become my friend holistically, you just, yeah, I just don't know, I never knew how to divide friends, and yeah, I don't know, and I feel yes, for sure, that came with its struggles. I think growing up my whole life, because of this trait that I have, I always found myself not really having a lot of friends. I wouldn't say I was friendless. I was not friendless, but the people I would genuinely call my friends were always a small circle. I was always just the small circle kind of person. I was never the kind of person to have a big circle. But now, as I grow older, I realize how this is becoming more unrealistic, and I'm going to explain why. I think another weakness of this strategy of just having a one-size-fits-all kind of friendship is that it doesn't account for the fact that we're human, and we all have shortcomings, basically, and that it's important to give people grace. I find myself not being able to differentiate between someone's shortcomings and red flags. For me, it's if you have this trait that I don't like or that I find annoying, then that's it. That's a red flag, and I'm cutting you off, which I feel is so unrealistic, because as human beings, we all have our flaws. I used to think it was such a flex when I'd say, oh yeah, me and this person, we've had a friendship for this many years and we've never even fought even once. That's insane, because okay, yes, I don't think you should be fighting every day, and I don't think you should always be arguing. If you're finding yourself always arguing and in these heated moments and arguments, then obviously yes, that's a red flag, because I don't think that's healthy. But I don't think it's normal for people to not argue, because at the end of the day, we are human beings, And sometimes I'm going to let you down, and sometimes you're going to let me down. And the important thing is to talk about it so that we avoid doing that in the future, but to also give each other grace in that process. I remember once watching this video. I don't remember what video, and I don't remember what they said word for word, but basically what they were saying is, by the time someone is coming to you about an issue that's disturbing them, and they're actually willing to talk to you about it and walk through it, then that means they want to continue having this relationship with you. They're not telling you this because they want to cut you off or they no longer like you as a friend. The only reason they're bringing it up is because they want to fix it and be able to walk through it and continue whatever relationship it is that you have with them. It's important to just be able to differentiate between, someone's weaknesses and shortcomings and red flags. And I feel like the biggest issue that I had is I was demanding perfection, which is why I found myself only having a handful of friends. I still think it's important to have a close circle. Yeah, I still value like the concept of having a close circle, but I'm also now finding myself being more open-minded to not just having a close circle, like giving people grace, basically. I think it's also important to know yourself and to know what you can handle and what you can't handle. And yeah, I think this also ties to like the shortcomings things. Of course, there's some things that are like probably a hard no and a hard pass for you. Like for me, one thing that's a hard no for me is obviously someone who wishes you bad always, like they never want to see you succeed. Of course, that's a hard no for me. Like there's no compartmentalizing or giving grace in that area, because like what? But probably something that could annoy me but is not a hard no for me would be like someone who's messy. Wait, I'm like, am I sure about that one? If you're someone who's messy, then for sure I know we can't live together. You're not the friend that I'll be able to live in an apartment with. But that doesn't mean you're a bad person. Like, that doesn't mean you're not a friend. It just means like, I know myself, I know you, I know probably in this kind of environment where we're living together, it wouldn't work because I'm not a messy person. But probably you have other strengths and you're still a good friend at the end of the day. So I don't think that's grounds to cut you off. Yeah. One size fits all in friendships is almost impossible because it's demanding perfection of people, and I don't think that's realistic. And also people change. Yeah, people change. I read this article, which I'm now going to pull up because I don't want to butcher what she said. I feel like she put it very well. Before I read what she said, because it was a long article, it's very interesting, I would recommend you guys check it out. I'll put it down in the description box below. It's an article by Cassie Wilson and it's called Sorting the Squad: Why Compartmentalizing Your Friendships is Actually a Good Thing. It's very informational and I feel like it puts across what I'm trying to say in a better way, and it's a really short read, so you guys should check it out. But before I read the quote that I wanted to read from this article, I wanted to say that yes, on the point of people changing, yeah, people change. What did she say? So she explains how sometimes you could have childhood friends, and of course, being that they're your childhood friend, you probably spent so much time together, you made so many memories when you were younger, and like you were super close when you were young. But obviously, like as time goes, you'll find yourself probably moving to like different neighborhoods or different countries, or being more busy, doing more things, drifting because of these things. And as a result, like you're probably not seeing each other as much or talking as much. And yeah, but at the end of the day, you still feel like that's your friend, and you know that that's like someone who you would want to continue to have in your life. Like that's a friendship you don't want to let go of. But also, you know that probably they wouldn't be the friend that you'd call in the middle of the night to help you in an emergency, because you guys have drifted as a result of like life circumstances and experiences. And so, yeah, in that situation, you'd find yourself probably compartmentalizing them, putting them in the category of, yes, childhood friend even, who I still value and care for and love, but not friend that I would call in the event of an emergency. It would be unfair to put expectations onto this person who's your childhood friend to, fulfill certain needs or to be that friend for everything, when life has just caused you guys to drift. Like, it's no bad blood, but at the same time, yeah, it's no bad blood. Yeah, at the end of the day, it's not any bad blood. Like, you love and care for this person, but you just know they won't be able to fulfill this certain need in your life. And so instead of cutting them off, because of the love that you have, the memories that you've built, the connection that you have with this person, you decide to keep them as a friend, but you also understand that they won't be able to fulfill all the needs that you have in your life. They'll only be able to fulfill a certain portion of your needs. Yeah. Okay, so she says, it's long, so bear with me, guys. Whew. I also stutter and stammer a bit when I read sometimes, so don't judge me, please. We're all complex people with different needs, priorities, and visions. What it takes to fill one friendship cup might be a totally different recipe than what it takes to fill another. And then she proceeds to say, this one is still a huge ouchie for me. And granted, I'm writing about it and preaching about it, but I'm going to be honest with you here. I've struggled to reclassify some of my closest friendships or relationships, because why would I ever settle for something less when I know what it's like to have the full thing? Which is like my argument. Like, that's how I've always thought. But then she proceeds to say, it's hurtful when someone who has been so central to your life rearranges their priorities or grows differently. This misalignment takes some getting used to. Sometimes we need to finesse a little, and when we know the weaknesses and downfalls of our friends, we might just be able to get ahead of the problems. We've all lied about reservation times to the friend who's always late, and I'm here for it. Yeah. So basically she's saying, yeah, sometimes it might suck that probably this friend who was able to be there for you in all capacities is no longer able to, because you guys drifted, or because, life happened. And, life can really happen, because like things can happen that can just change your priorities and how you show up for people. And I think that's normal. And I think we need to be able to give people grace in that sense. I think basically the essence of compartmentalizing your friends or putting them in categories is that you're understanding that everyone's human and life happens, and we're not always going to be able to be there for people fully, but like we still value people for what they bring into our lives and the friendships and the connections that we've had. And so instead of putting these expectations that will be unmet and that will cause disappointment for you and for them, you decide to give them grace and understand their strengths and their their weaknesses. I think for me it's a bit tricky, because just as she said, why would I settle for less when I have experienced the full version of you? But I think it also goes back to the fact that life is not black and white. People are all going through different things, and we just need to give people grace and stop demanding perfection of others. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't set boundaries and we shouldn't communicate when we feel like someone is lacking in some areas. But I feel like sometimes it's also good to exercise, wisdom and discernment as well. You need to understand when something is just a hard no for you and it's just something you cannot live with. You need to also be able to weigh the pros and the cons in terms of someone's strengths and weaknesses. But obviously this is something I am still learning. In fact, I don't even know if I've learned it. It makes sense in theory, but I don't know if practically I've been able to exercise it. I feel like so far I'm not doing that great. I'm still trying to figure out that balance, because for me, for sure, as I said, quality over quantity. And I feel like it also ties into just the concept of just not seeing everything as black and white. I think not everything is black and white in this world and lifetime. yeah, and we need to talk about that more. Yeah, I think multiple things can be true at once, basically. That's all I have to say. I hope you guys have been able to get something from this video, whether it's a lesson or even just an idea or a thought or a different perspective, like whatever it is. I hope you guys have been able to get something from this video. It's a topic I feel like has been showing up a lot in my life of late, and I feel like it's also very intertwined because I started talking about people pleasing. I tied that into, you know, putting yourself out there and being an extrovert, and then I also tied that into friendships and compartmentalizing them. And I feel like in some way they're all kind of interconnected. If you can relate, please let me know down below. If you have any thoughts, let me know as well. And if you have any clarifications as well, you know, I probably could have made assumptions about other groups of people, because obviously I'm speaking from my own perspective and my own experience, and my experience could be drastically different from someone else's. And I think that's actually the case a lot of times, because we're all different and we all value different things and we all have different like experiences. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one.